be screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of, What If Ichigo Enters Game of Thrones? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Magi tale Welkin on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. A god watched his surroundings as he began to die. The Soul King, ruler of the Soul Society, who regulates the passage of souls, killed by his son and a tricked young man. Orange healing energy surrounded him, he sighed and turned to the young woman in his midst, trying to restore me. Orihime Inoue, you sweet maiden, I thank you, but I wish to move on, the energy shattered. The son Yhwach, the Quincy king smiled as the other stared, shocked, it's futile. No matter what you try, there is no way to revive the Soul King. The tricked young man, Ichigo Kurosaki, looked away in turmoil, everyone's dead thanks to me. Meanwhile, Orihime Inoue stared devastated, I couldn't do it, it's like Hueco Mondo again, I'm not strong enough. Your words are true my son, the Soul King thought, but you should not assume that things will go your way. A hand of darkness, as if made of shadows, appeared from the floor and held the encased and sliced body of the dying Soul King. Yhwach's eye widened, what is the meaning of this, and the question on everyone else's minds, what the hell? A single eye opened from the hand and Yhwach understood, Hogi, the one being that can escape my eyes, he muttered before bellowing out, why is the right arm of the Soul King himself meddling in this affair? Is this out of your attachment for the Soul Society you have protected? Answer me, the Mimihagi narrowed its eye, as if to look smug. Yhwach charged but a black barrier appeared. Mimihagi sighed, now Mstr we have some time to talk, he spoke through telepathy so no one else could hear. Quite old friend, you don't wish for me to leave my duties, do you? Of course not, to give it up will cause this reality to change dramatically, you know I live to keep things the same. Yes, but in this case it is unavoidable, I am dying, the realms will change no matter what, it is only a matter of who takes my power, and if possible restore me to my previous state of being. Yhwach is your son, thus your heir, and his changes will not be too drastic. I'm afraid I have chosen another, someone I deem more fitting. Ichigo grabbed Yhwach's hand and the two battled. Yoriichi Shihoin jumped before the two gods and created a barrier. The Soul King ignored her plans and watched Kurosaki as the boy spoke to the Quincy King, I'm here to stop you and protect everything I hold dear. The Soul King smiled, the Mimihagi saw its Mstr's expression, Kurosaki. He is the one who cut you in half. Because my son took advantage of Ichigo's Quincy BLD, I do not blame him, and now he fights my arrogant and ignorant son for a cause you would agree with, I cannot think of anyone else more capable of being my heir. But a human, one so distantly descended from you, the change to the realms will be massive, more or less a complete reform. And the realms as they are now, are they really worth saving? If I had not decided to become what I am now, then this. It's too late to dwell on regrets. Do you agree with my decision? You are my Mstr, in the end I move to your command, though I feel sorry for Kurosaki, he will be alone in the new world. Thank you my old friend, do not worry about that, Kurosaki's soulmate is easily within reach. The Soul King and the Mimihagi closed their eyes as they overheard Yhwach and Ichigo's argument. The orange-haired young man held the larger of his two black blades, I already know I'm descended from you BLD. And what of it? It doesn't mean I'm going to let you have it your way. My thoughts precisely, a new voice said, a low soothing benevolent voice with a tone of authority to it. Yhwach's eyes widened, no, how can this? Ichigo turned as seeing Yoriichi backing away eye wide and bowing, to the Soul King back in one piece, a set of black bandages around his torso. His right hand placed on the floor holding himself up, black as well. The contrast with his pure white body made it look like the most advanced prosthetic limb ever devised. A pair of legs materialized from the stumps and the creature stood up before looking at his son. His eyes black abysses with a pair of lights like stars shining deep within. Everyone beheld the sight. Yhwach stared, his hands trembling and eyes darting. How can this be? I saw you, you died and I would absorb you, every possibility. Now that the Hogi is a part of me once more I can escape to your powers. You will boost how your power, the Almighty, gives you the ability to change the future, but I have the power to change reality. A flock of feathers appeared and encircled the Soul King, then Ichigo and Orihime. The wind storm blew fearsomely and the sound almost deafening. Yhwach growled and pounced at the three. Some of the feathers left the flock and stabbed the Quincy King repeatedly, his screams only just heard over the full flock of feathers. Orihime, Ichigo called as he grabbed his friend. Keep close, she nodded, burying herself into him, trying to muffle the sound, and fulfilling a longing she carried. She loved Ichigo and savored the moment, feeling his muscles through the unique texture of Ichigo's shihakusho, the uniform of Soul Reaper. The Soul King grinned. He raised his arm as white energy appeared around him. It wisped around like smoke. He blew the smoke and it covered Ichigo and Orihime. Ichigo closed his mouth and covered Orihime's, but the smoke seeped into their skin and clothes, turning black for Ichigo and orange for Orihime as it did so. The world around the feather storm disappeared in a flash of light, the ear-piercing flutters stopped and the whirlwind died. When the two opened their eyes they found themselves in a forest. The whistling of birds and the rustle of leaves made the place the complete opposite of the war they just fought in. Ichigo let Orihime go and looked round. What the hell? A second wave of confusion hit, however this did not come from him. He turned to Orihime instinctually, knowing it came from her. I can feel her emotions. How the? Orihime flinched and turned to him wide-eyed and mouth trying to speak. Orihime. What's wrong? Then it happened, I heard him. How? Ichigo jumped himself, almost fainting. He focused only this new and alarming connection between him and her and spoke in his mind. Orihime. I can hear you too. Ichigo, you. She stepped back. Ichigo rushed up and held her tight. It's okay, Orihime, it's okay. The healer smiled softly and once again savored the moment, herself forgetting momentarily and letting her thoughts and emotions get the better of her. Oh Ichigo, I love you. He froze. She felt it and realized. Shaking a little she slowly gazed up, their eyes met, a moment that felt like an age passed and then his lips swiftly met hers. She squeaked into his mouth, then felt his love, as real as hers for him, and she moaned. Both wrapped their arms around each other, they filed through their memories, some good some bad, but it didn't matter, they shared memories of love. Finally, their lips parted and they looked into each other's eyes. In a rare moment Ichigo smiled, not a smirk but a genuine smile, and felt emotion he never felt since his mother died. A deep chuckle echoed close by, shocked out of their content exchanged and turned to where it originated. The Soul King stood next to a white tree, with a face with a sad smile carved into it. Still chuckling, the Soul King walked slowly towards them. His appearance changed again. He now wore a pair of grey hakama and an equally grey tight-fitting coat, with touches of lance here and there. He looked like a perfect mix of Japanese and European nobility. Still without his left arm, the sleeve attached to the front of the coat by its cuff. Ichigo noticed something else. His clothes are like mine in Bankai, except not black. The Soul King finally spoke. Forgive me, but I was just thinking about all the possible times you could have been together. It took the reforming of this existence and a soul bond to do actually achieve it. Soul bond? Orihime asked. Reforming of existence? Ichigo followed. The Soul King sighed. The first one will be quickest to answer. Two souls that are so perfect for each other they connect. For powerful individuals as you two have become, it more or less joins your souls together, allowing an empathic and psychic link. Perfect for each other? Orihime repeated under her breath, tear forming in her eyes, like soulmates. Not just like Miss Inoue but literally soulmates. Ichigo blinked and he heard Orihime sob, he checked and felt her happiness, he smiled and held her tight. He sighed as returned her gaze to the Soul King, what about this reform? Yes, since I am no longer the linchpin, the world changed. You mean, what you did to us, are we? Actually no, I gave you many of my powers, but you are not the linchpin like I was. The realms returned to one, however not as my son wished, he wanted a world without fear, but without fear, where does courage come from? As for you two, you have become what I was and am again, a kami. So only you two are able to see me and my brethren, unless we choose to reveal ourselves. I could only do a reform like that once, so I have lost the majority of my abilities, every action has consequences, that was mine. Both the orange-haired teen's eyes widened but the Soul King continued, unlike me, right now you are in human bodies, so you will be seen by humans and shall shuffle off your mortal coils and then you become proper kami. Ichigo both smirked and frowned his eyebrows appreciating the use of Shakespeare but confusion over how the Soul King knew about him. Orihime spoke, what about our friends? Tatsuki, Chad, Rukia, Renji, Ranjaku, Toshiro, Miss Yoriichi, Mr. Urahara, Yuryu? And my family? Ichigo added, thinking about his twin sisters and his Socratic father. They have been reincarnated into this world, the powers I gave you means you will recognize them if you do meet them, they will look different and their personality could drastically differ. A wail of a man's voice originating from the edge of the forest. Ichigo took a step forward, but the Soul King held out his arm and stopped. Just a moment, Kurosaki. What the hell do you think you're doing? Someone could be in danger. Yes, but I don't think Zangetsu in his current state would be suitable, sealing is all that is required. In an instant the two black blades disappeared and in the place, on Ichigo's back rested what looked like a Japanese attempt at a broadsword, an oversized katana with a black rectangular guard and a black wrapped hilt, a chain connected to the end, with an equally large black sheath. Ichigo examined the sword, which looked similar to its first form before returning his gaze to the Soul King who smiled back, there will be other matters to sort out but that can be until later. He stepped aside and Ichigo rushed forward to where the cry sounded, followed closely by Orihime. The Soul King slowly followed as well, thinking, this world could have formed on its own as a separate dimension. A little different. Just our presence here has probably created ripples affecting this reality's past, present and future. The Soul King reached the edge of the forest and surveyed the scene. Inside the overgrown courtyard of a ruined castle, Ichigo swung the sealed Zangetsu into the chests of two men, more bodies laid around, while Orihime stood with her dome shield around herself as well as an old man and an 11-year-old boy. The final enemy man fell. Ichigo swiped Zangetsu down strong and fast, sending the BLD off the blade and sheathed his Zanpakuto. He turned round as Orihime let the shield go. The old man stood up and pulled the child to his feet, his face held no emotion but his eyes gave an intimidating glare, but with a hint of respect. Impressive boy, I thank you. And the women, tell me what are your names? I'm Ichigo Kurosaki and this lady. He turned to his soulmate, what do you say, Orihime, will you mind being my wife? Oh no Ichigo, not at all, she did her best to hide her joy. Ichigo looked back to the two, she is my wife Orihime. The old man raised an eyebrow, and why then does your wife dress like a were? Orihime blushed and covered her exposed cleavage. I was tricked by a friend to wear this, he said Ichigo would be happy if I wore it. Ichigo sighed and held her tightly to him. I do like it Orihime, I was saying it was too revealing in a practical sense, I mean we were going to face Yhwach, it's not exactly the best thing to wear. She smiled. The boy looked at her with awe in his deep blue eyes. How did you do that? I know the Green Seers had magic but... It's just one of my abilities. The boy nodded before blinking and looking swiftly at the old man. Grandfather, we haven't introduced ourselves yet. I had noticed that, the old man said with a small smile on his face. He looked back at the couple. I am Lord Tywin Lannister, and this is my grandson Prince Asher Baratheon. The couple bowed low. Ichigo recovered and looked at the bodies lying around them. Some wore armor and helmets, other wore cloaks and common clothing. Sorry for being blunt, but who the hell were these men and what did they want with you? Bandits most likely, apart from my guards, I shall make sure to have a Clegane next time. As for the reason I am rich and Asher is the twin of the crown prince. Ichigo nodded before taking Oriheim's hand, we should be going. Wait, we have matters to discuss, you saved us and so we owe you, and a Lannister always pays his debt. Unseen by Tywin or Asher the Soul King raised his eyebrow, this should be interesting. It took a day to get to Casterly Rock, the Lannister ancestral home. But once home and in his study Tywin checked the map as Asher talked with a more modestly dressed Oriheim about the continent of Westeros and its history. Ichigo leaned on a wall looking down through a window to Lannisport. The wall of the port city stretched along the bay from the headland which the castle sat on down south for miles to the next, a building occupied almost every bit of space. Ichigo faintly made out the sound of commerce, the argument's other expense, the shout of people at stalls and man on ships. The heat from the summer sun started to make him sweat so he walked into the cooler shadow. The Soul King looked over Tywin's shoulder. When seeing a map, they claimed their homeland, Japan, laid further east than the grey waste of Essos. With the Soul King's help they wove a story saying Yhwach and his Vandenreach destroyed Japan and they were the only known survivors. Ichigo turned to the black-haired boy. And the boy looked back at him, within the stare memories hit him, of someone he fought against, someone he at first hated until close friends said otherwise, now he felt indifferent to the cunning fox. I hope this kid's different. Oriheim agreed. Very coincidental, all eyes turned to the Lord as he explained, the only land I can give you that fits this situation happens to be Castamir, the ruined keep of which you saved us in. So you're making us nobles? Ichigo said his eye wide. Yes, due to the fact you saved me, Lord Paramount of the Westerlands and Warden of the West as well as the second in line to the Iron Throne, plus the size and history of the lands you will be one of my main noblemen. So a marquis then? Asher looked up, what? Ichigo sighed, in Japan we have specific names for each level of nobility, the highest are dukes and non-royal princes. Like House Martell? Asher asked, they've at the same level as grandfather, Uncle Renly, Lord John Arryn and Lord Eddard Stark, but they call themselves princes and princess. If you say so, Ichigo said before continuing, a marquis directly below a duke. Originally they guarded the borderlands so had high responsibility and power, it just became a fact that a marquis was the second most powerful noble. Below a marquis is an earl and the lowest below the earl is a baron. Ichigo, Oriheim asked with her mind, what about viscounts? I don't really get why viscount is a title, I'm streamlining it. Unaware Asher turned to Tywin, I like the idea. Tywin raised an eyebrow so Asher continued, I sometime get confused about which house is more powerful than another. It would make it simpler to understand the old lion must nodding, but it would mean a large amount of work to determine which house had which rank, plus changing documents, also it would take a long time to get used to calling you Marquis Ichigo. Actually apart from Duke the ORL address is still Lord. I see, and Duke. Your Grace. Really, that is an address to the King and Queen. I think Mother prefers Highness. And for the King we would use, he paused as the thoughts of Yhwach came back, but only briefly, the term Majesty. Really, I shall see what I can do, whether the noble houses of the other kingdoms will take to it is a different matter but I will make sure it is done here in the Westerlands. Send a message to John Arryn, Asher said, he's a sensible man, I'm sure he can get it past father. Tywin grinned, very well, as for you Kurosaki, you and your wife will return to Castamir. He handed a piece of paper to Ichigo, find Ser Florian Rainhill, ever since House Rain came to an end he has claimed control, so be warned he may not like this change. Ichigo glanced back at Oriheim before looking back, I think we can handle it. He put the message into his kimono looked again to Oriheim and the two, followed by the Soul King left the room. Walking out to the bridge between the headlands of the rock Oriheim turned to Ichigo, how do we get back to Castamir? If I flash step at full speed we could be there in a few minutes, but you'd better hold on tight, she smiled. The Soul King tapped Ichigo on the shoulder, I will meet you at Castamir, I sense another kami nearby, perhaps I can learn more of the world from him or her. Ichigo nodded, pulled Orihime onto his back and Flash stepped away. Ichigo stopped on instinct and the couple found themselves in Castamir. Ichigo looked around surprised. I knew I've gotten faster, but, 300 miles in 1 second? Damn King, and new voice said, catching Ichigo by surprise, I clocked you at 10 million miles an hour. The voice sounded like Ichigo, but distorted. Ichigo. Orihime said, shaking while she breathed slightly faster with herself horrified by the voice she heard. Was that your my inner hollow? Yeah, but I learned something in the Soul King's palace. My inner hollow is Zangetsu. She gasped as he showed her his memory. The being he thought of as Zangetsu from almost the start, turned out in truth to be the manifestation of his Quincy powers, and bore the looks of a younger Yhwach. Zangetsu spoke up, the old man's hiding away. I think I know why. We'll sort this out later. Right now we need to find this Sir Florian. He put Orihime down and looked to the nearby town. Come on. He took her by the hand and they entered the settlement called Rain's Ruin. A guard stood at the gate. State your business. Ichigo put on his trademark scowl. We've been sent by Lord Tywin Lannister to speak with Sir Florian Rainhill. You'll find him in the town hall, but be warned, he's in a foul mood, something about a group of bandits failing a simple task or something. Ichigo looked at Orihime before turning back to the guard. Thank you, and the two walk in. The town hall stood in the center surrounded by streets filled with mud, crumbling homes with wooden planks covering up holes in the wall. The town hall appeared to be the only building in good condition. I've got a bad feeling about this, Ichigo thought before pushing the door open. Inside the hall sat a man on a wooden chair with hastily made and poorly placed accessories to make it look like a throne. The man dressed in dull armor, his face puffy, big-nosed, going bald with an attempted comb-over to hide the fact. A shield sat beside the chair, with a rampant blue lion on a gold field. In the middle of the room stood a man playing an instrument similar to a violin. When the fiddler finished, the armored man clapped. Good, play it again. Sir Florian, I hoped I would be allowed to play an original composition of mine. You will play what I say, another day perhaps. Play on. Then he noticed the orange-haired couple. Actually no, we have guests, perhaps they can entertain us. He eyed Orihime, but Ichigo stepped in front of her. No one lays a finger on my wife. Sir Florian scoffed. Who are you to give me orders? I'm Ichigo Kurosaki. Is that supposed to mean something? Ichigo said nothing but walked up to the makeshift throne, took the letter out and held it to Sir Florian's face. Just read it. Sir Florian narrowed his eyes at Ichigo before reading the letter, muttering out the word as he did so, loudly enough for all to hear. I Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, Shield of Lannisport, Lord Paramount of the Westerlands and Warden of the West. He rolled his eyes, and pompous idiot. Hereby give the keep of Castamir and its attendant lands once ruled by House Rain to Ichigo Kurosaki. He blinked and his eye darted up to Ichigo and meet the young man's scowl. Sir Florian continued, as such the now formed House Kurosaki shall be a main house, such as Banefort, Crakehall, Leford and Prester. He gritted his teeth and gazed up. Add, what did you do to get the old lion's favor? I saved him and Prince Asher from a group of bandits. You can't prove anything. I never even mentioned you were involved. Now look, Sir Florian stood up, however Ichigo still towered over him. I'm charge here, Anne. And who are you? The proud lord said. The fiddler began. That I must bow so low. Only a cat of a different coat, that's all the truth I know. In a coat of gold or a coat of red, a lion still has claws, and mine are long and sharp, my lord, as long and sharp as yours. And so he spoke, that lord of Castamir. But now the rains weep o'er his hall, with no one there to hear. Yes, now the rains weep o'er his hall, and not a soul to hear. The room remained silent until Sir Florian blustered an order. Someone throw Zachary out. I will not have him undermining me. A man stepped from the corner and escorted Zachary the fiddler out. Sir Florian returned to Ichigo. As for you, I'll send you back to Casterly Rock in pieces. Someone kill him. A few of the men sat around the room quickly moved in, however Ichigo, with his black belt level of karate, plus his enhanced strength, speed and agility, quickly took them down. Ser Florian ran to the door and tried to grab Orihime, however she kicked him squarely in the head, knocking him out. Ichigo looked back proudly. Tatsuki would be proud, and she smiled. A loud clap broke their thoughts. A man sitting next to canvas by a pillar clapped with a massive grin on his face. "Very well done, my lord." His bellowing voice filled the room. "And you as well, milady." That was quite a skeptical. His words were followed by murmurs of agreement from those gathered. Ichigo looked to the man and felt recognition. The monk, referring to Ichigo Hyobius, the commanding officer of the Soul King's royal guard, now a man wielding a different type of brush. Ichigo walked closer and examined the painting. "You're quite the artist, sir." "Hugh Dean, painting's just a side job, sometimes sell them on to nearby lords or the occasional passing merchant. Sir Florian commissioned me to do a portrait of him, could never get his face right. Doesn't matter, he's no longer in charge." "What are you going to do with him?" "Imprison him till further notice. I'll ask Lord Tywin if his knighthood can be taken away." "Should be. He was proclaimed a knight by Lord Roger Rain. What about that bandit business? If anyone has any information on that matter, give it to me and I'll put it in a message to Lord Tywin." "As you command, my lord." "First thing is to construct a new castle." "Please, my lord," Hugh said, bowing. "Don't build over the ruins of the old keep, it should stand as a reminder of what Ser Florian forgot." "I never said I was. Prince Asher told us the significance of the old ruin, so we'll keep it that way, and in fact persevere it. Pride goes before destruction and haughty spirit before a fall." A very good way of describing the Rains and Ser Florian's story. I'll be sure to remember that. So where do you plan to build? "The other side of the God's Wood." "As you say, my lord." Knocking came from the doors and the musician Zachary, followed by a few other men, stormed in. They stopped right in front of the unconscious Ser Florian. Zachary looked at Ichigo wide-eyed. "Forgive me, my lord, but I thought you would need help." Hugh laughed. "Always the valiant one, brother." Hugh explained the short fight. Zachary Dean became far more impressed by the new nobles. Ser Florian and his loyal entourage were placed in jail, while Ichigo and Orihime took up residence in the town hall until the completion of the new castle. Ichigo woke the next morning. He decided to wait until Orihime felt ready before they move into any further stage of their relationship. To the world they were married but both still virgins. She continued to sleep, so it gave him the opportunity to talk to Zangetsu and his Quincy spirit. Remembering the instructions his father gave him, Ichigo sat down in the lotus position with his Zanpakuto resting on his lap. He focused on nothing but Zangetsu. Before he knew it, he entered his inner world, a place made within his mind. But this time it changed. Before a group of sideways skyscrapers, now an upright castle on a large lake. The hell? What happened? Someone spoke. "Things have changed in your head as well as outside," and Ichigo turned round. The spirit of Zangetsu stood there, a completely white version of Ichigo, aside from the black and yellow eyes. He grinned smugly. "Hey king." "Zangetsu." Ichigo said with slight venom. Still the Zanpakuto/hollow hybrid smiled widely, showing his black teeth. "You don't know how pleased I am to hear that. You finally acknowledged me. You didn't give me much chance to trust you, constantly trying to talk me over." The old man suppressed my Zanpakuto side, so my hollow traits were DMing. Most of my threats, as you would call them, were just to keep you on your toes, to make you get stronger, and as the old man said after crazy old Otsu let the cat out the bag, I've been the one saving you when you bit off more than you could chew. And scared Orihime half to death. I do regret doing that. Seeing your soulmate scared of you is extremely heartbreaking. I thought hollows didn't have hearts. I'm not just a hollow, remember? You're not just a human, you're a soul reaper, a Quincy, a hollow, and now a kami too. I'm still getting used to that fact. Zangetsu put his hand on Ichigo's shoulder. I'm here if you need any help. A king needs advisors, think as me as one of them. You're a lot calmer with you Zanpakuto side, but what do you mean I'm a hollow? It's complicated. Your hollow hole is actually on the blade that represents me. He glanced up. We'll have to continue this later. Your princess is waking up. At that moment Ichigo felt Orihime's happiness, so left his inner world. He opened his eyes and looked to the bed as Orihime rose from it. He smiled. Good morning Lady Kurosaki. he said with a little chuckle. She giggled, "Good morning to you, my lord. Come on, let's get dressed. I imagine the townsfolk want to formally meet us." Then her stomach growled. He laughed, "And I'd be a bad husband if I didn't tend to your needs." Ichigo, she continued the conversation in their minds, "I don't know if it's right to say we are married. I'd love to call you my husband. I've dreamed of marrying you, but I haven't. Perhaps I was a little hasty, but to be fair, we had just learned we're soulmates, but how can we have a ceremony? There's no shrine anywhere here." "You're Shinto, Ichigo?" "I believe in it, more so since I became a soul reaper, but I rarely visited the Shire in Karakura town. What about you?" "Pretty much the same, though I visited the Shire sometimes, mostly to ask the kami there for help in many things. I would like a ceremony, Ichigo, but I see your point. We'll think of something, Haim, don't worry. If anyone asks, we'll say we follow the old gods, we just call them kami." He kissed her on the forehead, then her stomach growled again. She blushed before getting up. "Is it alright if I make breakfast?" Ichigo hesitated. Orihime carried an infamous reputation for cooking unusual meals, many of which put people off. He felt her sadness and guilt surrounded him. He sighed, "Alright Orihime, I give it a try." She smiled, "Thank you, Ichigo." One of the townswomen walked into the hall and towards the kitchen, then she heard activity and a couple of shadows cast from the lit fire. She frowned her eyebrows and crept to the doorway. She peered inside and gasped. Both Ichigo and Orihime turned round as the 21-year-old women stepped back and bowed. "Forgive me, my lord, my lady, I didn't realize you were both awake." Her light blue eyes shook slightly. Ichigo raised his eyebrows a little shocked. Orihime mentally voiced his amazement. Tatsuki, only her flat nun-spiked hair showed any different between their old friend and this new woman. Ichigo sighed, "It's alright, you weren't to know. What's your name?" "Tisha, my lord." "Tisha. Yes, do you have a family name?" "Kershaw, my lord, my name is Kershaw." Her uncertainty made the couple look at each other. Ichigo looked back. "Alright Tisha, we were just about to have breakfast. You're alright to join us." The woman's eyes widened and she stepped back. "I don't wish." Orihime walked over and took her hand and looked kindly into her eyes. "You won't be intruding, we're the ones that invited you." Tisha nodded. Soon the three start to eat. At first Ichigo didn't know what to think given Orihime's description, but took his first bite and hell broke loose in his head. "God. Don't you mean kami, Ichigo?" "Well yeah, I guess so, but wow Haim, this is better than what Captain Hikifune gave me and Renji." She held in her excitement. His praise wanted her to wrap her arms round him and embrace him for 10 minutes straight. "Perhaps later, Haim. I never thought you'd be flirty, Ichigo." Tisha broke their thoughts. "You make some very interesting meals, Lady Kurosaki. Where did you learn?" "I live alone since I was 9, before I meet Ichigo," she said, looking down, remembering her late brother Sora. Ichigo wrapped his arms round her. She smiled slightly and continued, "I learned to cook by myself." "So you're an orphan?" "I guess so. My brother took me with him when he left our abusive parents and raised me, then he had an accident and..." Tears formed. Ichigo turned her to him and wiped the salt water from her eyes before hugging her tightly. Tisha watched and sighed, looking away slightly. "He's devoted to her. I wish." She looked back as Ichigo let Orihime go. Tisha plucked up courage and spoke again. "I can relate slightly. I never knew my mother and my father died of an illness. I traveled by myself. When I was 13 days old some men tried to RPE me." Orihime gasped and Ichigo gritted his teeth. Tisha saw the reactions from the two. "Should I tell them? What if he tells the old lion?" The Soul King appeared beside and whispered in her ear, "You can trust them, you did in another life, you can again." A twinge of recognition hit her and she looked at the couple once more. "Have I met them before?" "I remember something," she sighed. "That's not the worst of it. You remember I hesitated over my house name? In truth it should be Lannister." "You married into Lord Tywin's family?" Ichigo asked. She nodded. "Tyrion, his youngest son, the dwarf." "What happened?" "Tyrion and his brother Ser Jaime the Kingslayer saved me from those men. He took care for me and we fell in love. I looked past his appearance and height when so many nobles had not, and saw a kind 16-year-old man, and one who respected those outcast and mistreated. Ichigo laughed lightly. He sounds like someone I'd like, so you married him. Tisha dropped her head but a small smile crept up her lips. Yes, for 2 weeks we were happy. I would sing, "The Seasons of My Love," something my father taught me as a little girl. Ichigo raised an eyebrow and Orihime giggled. Tatsuki never sang, but then again Tatsuki did not sit next to them. Tisha continued, her expression dropping. Somehow Lord Tywin found out. He made Jaime tell Tyrion a lie, that I was hired to take his virginity away. She shut her eyes, and then had his guards gang RPE me, ordered them to give me a silver stag, and made Tyrion pay a golden dragon to me. After that I was sent away. So you're still technically married to him? She nodded. Annulments after consummation is impossible, and I don't think Lord Tywin wanted to risk this getting out, so I think he's convinced himself the marriage was invalid as the Septon who married us was drunk and did it after Tyrion bribed him. I hadn't flowered at that point, so no baby came of it. Orihime shed tears after hearing all that. Then she asked, "What's your view?" "I'm still married to Tyrion and I still love him, but I get his actions after I was sent away. All I want is to talk to him, but..." "I understand." Ichigo said, "We'll think of a way." "You don't have to. You've had a terrible injustice happen to you, it should be put right. It's just I don't know, Lord Tywin's given me this land, I have to remain loyal to him. If it weren't for the fact I'm related to Lord Tywin through marriage I'd sneak into Casterly Rock and slice his throat." Her fist clenched tightly. Ichigo back away slightly. "Cammy, I can almost see the fire coming off her." Orihime gulped and took Tisha's arm. "Septons are priests then?" "Yes, you don't know about the faith of the Seven?" "Not really, we only came here recently." Prince Asher only mentioned the religions of Westeros in passing. "So you don't follow the Seven or the old gods?" "No," Ichigo said, "we do follow the old gods, but we call them kami." "How come you follow the old gods if you're foreigners?" "The old gods were worshipped by the children of the forest over 12,000 years ago." The couple turned to each other. Ichigo thought of something and Orihime agreed. "It's actually a little odd, we have a form of knight, we call them samurai, we created a similar feudal form of society. Until a group of powerful warlords united our island home. Japan was fragmented into small states. From what we glimpsed of the blacksmith, you have tempered steel, there's a type of katana that uses it." Tisha looked amazed at how many things in Japan matched those in Westeros. Having a religion similar to the old gods now didn't seem so outlandish among so many other similarities. "Then have you visited the gods' wood?" "Briefly, we plan to build the new castle beside it." Tisha opened her mouth to speak when the doors to the hall opened and Hugh and Zachary, Lord Ichigo. Hugh shouted out in amazement, "You're never going to believe what we found, milord." "Found?" "Yes, milord, we started surveying the area for the new keep-on and found something, come see." Ichigo stared at the large metal door built into the mountainside besides the large hill and hidden within the vegetation, a red lion painted on the door. He looked back to the brothers Dean. Zachary spoke. "The red lion was the symbol of House Rain, they must have hid something before Lord Tywin got rid of them all." Orihime put her hand to her mouth. "Even the children?" Both brothers nodded. Ichigo sighed, regretfully. "It makes sense, so how long has this door been hidden?" Hugh shrugged. "All we know is it must be over 32 years old." "Well," Ichigo said, "let's see what's inside." He looked down at the lock, a combination lock to his surprise, and very ornate. He turned back to the brothers who shrugged. Hugh spoke. "Looks like I was made in a free city in Essos, haven't a clue how it works." Ichigo sighed and looked at the lock. He noticed some of the numbers seemed worn, so he moved the wheels to 538 and it unlocked. "Nice little detective work, King." Ichigo ignored Zangetsu as he removed the lock and pulled the door open. He stepped inside and stopped in his track. It's like the Cave of Wonders. Gold, silver and precious gems filled the room from wall to wall. After a careful count, the riches inside made House Kurosaki the second richest house in Westeros. Hugh picked up some. "With this, milord, you could pay off the almost 3 million golden dragon debts the crown has and still have more than half." "True," Ichigo said, "but that people would wonder how we easily give away 3 million gold coins. We keep this a secret." "Yes, milord, the group walked out. Ichigo shut the door and put the lock back in place, then muddled up the combination. Orihime walked up to him, to think that's all ours. The Soul King appeared next behind Orihime and spoke, naturally causing Tutu to jump. I recall you talking about the fact you say you're married when you have not had a ceremony. When the older Kami finished talking, Orihime lowered her head. I just feel like we're lying. What is marriage but a formally recognized partnership? Her remained unsure. She spoke, I'd still be lying to myself. She turned to Ichigo, I really want to be your wife, but not if it means. Ichigo put his hand on her shoulder and nodded. The Soul King sighed and spoke again, if you wish a ceremony we can discuss this in the God's Wood. Ichigo stared at the sad but smiling face carved within the large central bone, white tree sap falling from its eyes, near to a small pond. The Soul King explained, the weirwood is sacred to those who worship the old gods, as my counterpart in Casterly Rock told me, that and so much more. I can sense the remaining spirit energy of the Kami that lived here, presumably House Rain's guardian, but it seems to have gone. What does this have to do with a possible marriage? Orihime asked. Those who follow the old gods marry before the weirwood, a practice passed down from Kami, down the ages to today. But we also have other matters to discuss and I thought we should do it in a more private place. Ichigo frowned his eyebrows, like what? Well, you need to balance your powers, more specifically your hollow powers. The raise of the young man's eyebrow signaled the godlike being to continue. Your hollow and soul reaper powers have constantly been in conflict despite them being held by the same being, a very unique situation. So Ichigo, you must permanently solidify the divide between those two powers. In the yin and yang sense the division will bring balance. To do this you must let yourself become an Arrancar. Ichigo turned to Orihime. Are you going to be okay with this? Of course Ichigo, you'll still be you. Her confidence amazed him, after her terrible experience with the Arrancars under Sosuke Aizen's control, and the point in time Ichigo himself became a hollow. With her approval looked back to the Soul King, so how do I begin? Simply by being willing it. The process has started. Ichigo blinked, the Soul King pointed to the pond, so Ichigo checked his reflection. The left side of his face portrayed his hollow nature, his eye black with a yellow iris like Zangetsu and a single maroon line, like a tattoo going from his hairline down the left side of his face. His hollowified eye and lips made gasp in the lip which stopped beside his chin. Also he sported longer hair that reached down to just touch his wider shoulders. He felt Orihime's surprise and turned to her, passing his slight confusion to her, to which she responded, I thought you'd have some form of mask fragment. She showed him what she presumed he would look like, the left side of his face covered by a bone-like material, the same red line passing down, but over a featureless black eye hole and a row of sharp teeth, the most striking part, a large sharp horn, made up of straight lines and harsh angles. Ichigo's eyes widened. Kami, I must have been terrifying when I fought Ulquiorra. Orihime looked down and nodded. She then showed him, but then looked up, you did it to protect me, and Zangetsu saved you by turning you into that form. I can't thank him enough. Ichigo smiled, then he turned to the Soul King. How are people going to react to this? He said, indicating to the changes. The Soul King raised his hand in defense. Only those spiritually aware will see you like that, but don't be surprised if both of you get taller in the coming years. Both nodded a little confused. The Ichigo commented, a lot of my close friend became spiritually aware thanks to my spiritual pressure. True, even though you have control of it, given the potency of it since I gave you and your soulmate most of my power, we could see a good few spiritually aware people here. I guess we'll just have to explain if it happens. Ichigo said. The Soul King suddenly face-palmed, why did I not see this before? See what? And how could you not see whatever it is? You can see into the future. Yes, but it is different now, with most of my original power now within you and the different laws governing this reformed world. It is not as good as it was. I only get small parts. Enough to be of crucial guidance, and what I have seen is from 5 years into the future. I see an army of about 6,000 men and women defending this lands of Castamir and the rest of Westeros in a civil war. We'd better start on that. What are their weapons? Zanpakuto. How? Otsu was the only one who could make it. I remember the process of making them, I can pass it down to you, perhaps forging Shun Rika into a proper Zanpakuto as a test. Orihime titled her head, Shun Rika is a Zanpakuto. I thought it only acted similar to a Zanpakuto. To put it simply, your Zanpakuto spirits, you being an extremely rare individual for having a spirit that divided into more than two aspects, manifested into your hair clips at a time when you needed them, protecting your friends from that hollow. Can I ask if they're okay with this? The Soul King nodded. Ichigo then spoke, I've got some things to do with Zangetsu. Orihime nodded and Ichigo began to Jinzen for the second time that day. In his inner world, Ichigo met with Zangetsu and the two searched for Ichigo's Quincy spirit. Ichigo caught a glimpse of a dark figure in the water of the lake and Flash step up to him, swiftly followed by Zangetsu. They stood on the water's surface as if solid. Zangetsu crossed his arms, spoke, all right old man, the king wants a word with you. The Quincy spirit emerged from the water and held his head low before speaking, forgive me Ichigo. I did not know Yhwach would take advantage of me. We were all caught off guard by that trick, but why were you hiding? I do not think you will react well to this. I wish to resign. As the second half of Zangetsu, he pulled out the smaller of the Shirkai blade and put down at Ichigo's feet. He held his head even lower than before. He sighed, I don't deserve it after what happened. I am a part of you, but I cannot have this much control, especially with how things are now. Ichigo sighed himself, I understand. He picked up the blade and handed it to Zangetsu, who grinned and put the blade in his pocket. I'm going to need straps like yours, king. We can figure that out later. He returned to the Quincy spirit, I can no longer call you Zangetsu, and don't want to dignify Yhwach. I glad you do not wish that. Am I to receive a new name? Ichigo nodded. Quincy terms are similar to German, and as you were a part of Yhwach. I survived by being part of you. Yeah, I think the name Kaiser is fitting. I shall carry that name. Respect. If you wish any advice you can come to me as much as Zangetsu. Ichigo nodded before turning to his Zanpakuto spirit and inner hollow. Did you know those fairies of Orihime's were Zanpakuto spirits? Zangetsu grinned. Let's just say that we spirits have secrets. Ichigo raised an eyebrow, but knew nothing would come if it. A new thought crossed his mind. Do you have a release command now? Yeah, but as a dual-blade Zanpakuto it's too long to say in battle, for that just say my name, anywhere else you'll need this poem. Opening his eye, he saw Orihime talking with the Soul King. He got up, she looked over, everything okay Ichigo? Not what I expected, but it's sorted out, your fairies agreed on something. She nodded, they're all willing to be forged. Tsubaki said it would help me learn to fight. You don't have to Hime, I'm here to protect you. But if the king of this land or Lord Tywin calls you to fight, I need to defend myself. True. Ichigo looked to the Soul King, I'm ready to learn the secrets of the Zanpakuto. That will have to wait, the Soul King, for now we have a few visitors. Two figures walked up, one a very short woman carrying a couple of cloths, and the other, a man with a proud expression. Orihime blinked, he looked like an older version of her late brother Sora, only with long black hair tied in a horsetail. They both stopped and bowed. The man spoke first, greetings, especially to you Orihime Inoue. Hello, she said nervously, forgive me but, who are you and how do you know me? My name is Taro Inoue, the kami of your family line, that is to say the first Inoue in Karakura, your excenter, and a cousin of Masaneo Inoue. The last head of the Inoue clan. Sora told me of him, but, wow. Taro smirked, to be related to him, yes quite a shock. Ichigo blinked before turning to the woman, and you are? A bit blunt boy. I am, well your soulmate's namesake, the weaving princess, the daughter of the Sky King, and wife of the cow herder. The Soul King asked me to give you these. She held up the cloaks to an amazed Ichigo. He took the cloak before bowing low, I hope the weather holds well for your next meeting with your husband. I do as well, she said before walking away. Taro walked up and took hold of a cloak, the colors changed into a deep purple blue and the Inoue clan crest appeared on it, before putting it on Orihime. The Soul King stood next to Ichigo. The cloak is part of southern Westeros marriage tradition, and it signifies family. When you put it on your bride you bring her into the protection of your house. It must include the coat of arms. Think for a moment of what you want to represent your family for the rest of time. Ichigo thought. Initially he thought of his combat pass, however something else caught his imagination. I like the way you think, King. With his Zanpakuto's approval, Ichigo focused his idea on the cloth, and it too changed color, black apart from the white skull, with angular horns, sharp teeth, and a red stripes going down the front. The Soul King nodded. Good to see you really have accepted your hollow nature. Ichigo put the cloak on and stood in front of the weirwood. Taro put his arm around Oriheim's and walked her up to Ichigo. The Soul King spoke. Who comes before the gods today? Taro spoke. Oriheim of the Inoue clan comes here to be wed. A woman, grown and flowered, trueborn and noble, she comes to beg the blessing of the gods. Who comes to claim her? Me, Ichigo said firmly. Ichigo of House Kurosaki, Lord, possibly Marquis, of Castamir. I claim her. Who gives her? Taro of the Inoue clan, her excentor and household kami. The Soul King turned to her. Lady Oriheim, will you take this man? She smiled. I take this man. Taro let her go and she took hold of Ichigo's hand. The two knelt and bowed their heads, both prayed the same thing, a happy life together, before they stood. Ichigo removed his cloak and placed it on her shoulders over the Inoue clock. The Soul King grinned. You wish to be wed, according to the traditions of the north of Westeros you are now, all that is left is to consummate the marriage. Oriheim blushed. Ichigo saw and felt her uncertainty and nodded. We'll wait until we're ready. Very well, thank you Taro. The kami nodded and turned to Oriheim. I will visit every so often. I'd like that and thank you. Taro nodded and walked away. The secretly newlyweds re-entered the town hall. Hugh sat by a pillar. Lord Ichigo, Lady Oriheim, I was hoping we could discuss what you want for a design of this new castle. Really? Oriheim asked. Yes, I realize the castle is primarily a tactical place for refuge and defense, but does it have to look so plain? Highgarden is the only one I like, but barely. Well, Ichigo said, turning to Oriheim, who nodded in agreement. Perhaps we should tell you of our native architecture, the Japanese style. Hugh nodded and the two began explaining. A few hours passed and Hugh began a sketch based on the descriptions. Does this look like it? He handed the page over and the orange-haired couple examined it amazed. Ichigo spoke first. This is exactly what it looks like. Oriheim smiled widely. It's prefect. Well, Hugh said, blushing and looking away. I wouldn't call it prefect. Then he looked at the couple. Are you serious? You want that built? Why not? Ichigo said, a little reminder of home. Do you know where to find builders? Let me think. Lord Tywin and Prince Asher rode into Rain's ruin. Lord Tywin looked to the seemingly completed castle, made of stone and wood, the frightening banner of House Kurosaki flying in the wind. 2 years. Tywin thought, that strange castle built in 2 years. They reached the town hall and got off their horses. Entering they found the 19-year-old Marquis sat at a table discussing with a group of individuals, including Oriheim, dressed similarly to the Marquis, but with long white cloaks, a diamond shape with numbers sewn onto the backs, one number for each individual, which started from 1 and ended with 13. Beside the Marquis rested a bone-white helmet, that made even Lord Tywin shiver. It looked like a human skull, but with a row of fang teeth and 2 angular horns jutting out forward. The boy could easily spear someone with those. The thick red stripes, one on each side of the mask, only interrupted by the eye holes and the jaw. The boy made his sigil into a helmet. One thing confused him, the mask didn't seem to be made of metal, and in fact it looked more like bone, which made himself shiver even more. The Duke of Casterly Rock and the prince walked in. Ichigo looked up and nodded. Lord Tywin, your highness, what brings you here? The 13 turned to face the two, Hugh among them with his cloak saying 9 and another wearing a skull mask, but obviously female with the number 2 on hers. Oriheim wore one with the number 4. Lord Tywin sniffed. I wanted to see for myself the claims of this part of the Westerlands, the city of 1,000 artisans. a miniature King's Landing, and the trade of luxury goods to Essos. Most of it's true, the 1,000 artisans thing is just a nickname, but you'd be surprised at the amount of talent the people of Castamir have, even traders from Bravos are impressed. I see. Tywin's voice hinted some interest. Asher walked up closer and looked at the notes on the table, something about iron imports from House Humble of the Iron Islands, but the map of the settlement caught his attention. What's with all the red marks? Points for improvement, Ichigo said. We've been asked to rebuild the September in the style of the castle. I want to improve the streets and update the roads to the new port. Lord Tywin raised an eyebrow. Why do you need to build a port? Unlike you with Lannisport or House Westerling having their crag right next to the sea, there's about 50 miles between us and the ocean. The merchants are complaining about have to travel the other ports, then here and back, plus the cost of loading and unloading their goods. That is their problem. Suddenly the faces of everyone apart from Asher centered on Tywin. He eyed each of them, then he noticed each carried a sword, even Lady Orihime. He gulped. Asher, seeing something rarer than a smile from his grandfather, turned to Ichigo. So what is the port going to be called, your lordship? Ichigo turned to Asher, still scowling. We're naming it after the settlement that neighbored Karakura to the west, Naruki. Karakura? Lord Tywin asked. Ichigo nodded. It was the town Orihime and I were born and raised in. We're naming the castle after it. I see. I notice it is complete. Not quite, the last pieces of furniture are being put in place, and Hugh here need to finish the portraits for the family shire. Family shire? Like a tomb? Like the Hall of Heroes? I guess, Ichigo said, leaning back. It's a tradition of ours to have an image of loved ones in your home to pray and converse with in the hope their spirit can hear you. You mean their ghosts? Similar, there are kami that are supposed to help them pass to the next life. Next life? Asher asked, like one of the seven heavens. No, we believe a person is reborn as a new person, reincarnation we call it. One of the small folk could be reborn a noble and vice versa. Sometimes those who have done great things are made kami, so I wouldn't be surprised if people like Bran the Builder and Lon the Clever became kami. Asher looked wide-eyed. That's amazing. An interesting theory. Tywin said. Just then the doors opened and a group of workmen enter. The leader bowed when seeing Lord Tywin and the prince. Forgive me, but we came to inform Lord Ichigo that all the furnishing are in place. The castle is ready to be occupied. Ichigo and Orihime smiled and nodded their thanks. Both stood up as the Marquis spoke. I call this meeting done. You get those portraits down as soon as possible. As you command, my lord. Tywin looked at the two young nobles as they walked up to him, followed by Asher. Tywin himself stood at 6'3", but in a mere 2 years Lord Ichigo grew to rival an Umber at 6'8". Only Ser Gregor Clegane stood taller at almost 8 feet, and much to his own surprise Orihime became statuesque, just 2 inches below her husband and 3 inches taller than Duke of Casterly Rock himself. People called her the tallest woman in Westeros. It made him think of the stories of Ser Duncan the Tall and Tanzel Too Tall. Perhaps there is some truth in this reincarnation theory. Ser Duncan, a former commander of the Kingsguard, died along with King Aegon V and Prince Duncan Targaryen in the fire of Summerhall, and it would be impossible for Tanzel to be alive as she would be over 100 years old. Most of the people in the white cloaks left, the only one remaining stood at the door. Ichigo looked at him a little annoyed. Really, Illyrio, you know we can take care of ourselves. Yes, my lord, but it is my duty. Ichigo sighed. I guess so, and he shook his head, loyal as ever, just like Chojiro. Tywin frowned his eyebrow. What's this about? Sir Illyrio Seymour here is the captain of Squad 1, the castle guard and staff, and by extension, the family guards. I see, Tywin said before the 4 nobles exited the door. Before he continued talking, with the riches you've amassed, Ichigo, what do you plan to do with it? Their horses were brought and Tywin helped Asher onto his before mounting his own. Ichigo simply looked and said, first I'm going to pay off the crown's debt to the Iron Bank. Tywin blinked, however he simply kicked the side of his horse and rode off. Robert Baratheon, the king of Undulls and the first men, smiled in his chambers as he read the scroll from his son Asher. The boy made sure Robert didn't bankrupt the throne. Whenever in King's Landing on a visit home first he would check with Lord Peter Baelish, the MSTR of coin, how the economy, as Asher called it, fared. He refused to have the tourneys or feasts Robert proposed whenever the boy came, his reasons, they cost money that the crown doesn't have, which Robert began to agree with, his own fault. Thankfully, as proper father, Robert did not need to entertain himself that much. The 3 million golden dragon debt he amassed in his reign could have been double without Asher being born. With Asher helping Lord Baelish with the money, the debt should be paid off by the time I'm gone. Although did Asher have to refuse hunting? The boy said it would be disrespectful to the kami, as he sometimes called the old gods. According to Ichigo, deer are considered the messengers of the gods. 2 years ago Asher went to live in Castamir, under the watchful eye of Lord Kurosaki, a man who may have saved Robert's rule. On one visit Asher arrived with Lord Ichigo and a group of Castamir troops and number of crates. When Robert saw this, he went straight to Baelish's quarters to find the MSTR of coin slack-jawed and wide-eyed as the prince and the marquis still need to get used to that, said they'd raised enough to completely pay off the debt of the Iron Bank. Ichigo explained, I heard from the Braavosi traders that come to Castamir that the Iron Bank is ruthless in it collecting. A Lannister always pays his debts is a phrase that I owe my title and land to, but the Iron Bank will have its due, is a phrase that could end King Robert's rule. Baelish? Robert exclaimed, taking all three by surprise, why did you take a loan from the Iron Bank? Forgive me, your majesty, but your spending on tournaments and feasts lead me to. Which, Asher said, turning round, is something both myself and Lord Aaron have said a few times, father. Robert lowered his head and walked off. He heard Lord Ichigo state firmly if the money did not go to the Iron Bank then the king would need to find a new MSTR of coin. To have my own son scold me, 7 hells, he thought. He continued reading. Asher wrote about the dog he recently adopted. Queen Cersei watched Robert laugh, she knew exactly why, her black-haired son. The boy she initially never wanted, but then loved. She kept Joffrey close to her so that she could influence and control the crown prince, but Asher, she left him to his own devices. Robert took the boy under his arm, taught him as a Baratheon, no doubt to have him inherit the Stormlands unless Renly found a wife. Her father Lord Tywin requested that one of the twins go to Casterly Rock, and she sent Asher, who pleaded with Robert to go, which he reluctantly agreed. Every month for the last 4 years did Asher write and Robert would be first to read, then she would read, amazed at how proud she became and astounded at her father's apparent praise of Asher. Next time I see father I will have to ask him, although she frowned whenever Asher mentioned he helped the servant inspecting the drains and cisterns of Casterly Rock. He wrote, a leader has to understand the lowest before commanding all as the highest. Which aroused her suspicions. When she read that Asher would be spending a year or 2 in Castamir, her interest spiked. She heard the rumors from traders about the changes made to that area of her homeland and its unique culture. All the members of the Castamir forces, roughly 6,000, carried the title of Ser, or as Lord Kurosaki spelled it, Sir, but they used the name of samurai, not knights. Also about how rich Castamir became, not through gold or silver as her house and house reign became wealthy by, but through goods, whether for the lowborn or for the nobility, high agricultural production and constant construction, improving infrastructure as Kurosaki said. It baffled her how someone as intimidating as Lord Ichigo Kurosaki could be so popular with the lowborn. His scowl rivaled her father's and his sigil made her blood run cold just by looking at it. She hoped Asher would be alright. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Magi tale Welkin on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.